Good evening and welcome. My name is Rob, aka Lantern Noir. It is 5 o'clock, so we have clocked out and checked in. We've had our potent potables poured on our behalf. As a reminder, wherever you are and wherever you are enjoying this episode of Happy Hour at the Old Timer Tavern, be kind to your waitstaff. Even if you're waiting on yourself, you deserve it too. With me, as always, is my amazing partner and co-host,
Gray Bear to Graybeard's Tavern.
How it's been a minute. I think we aim for by every other week, twice a month, and we missed a week.
Yep.
How have things been at the tavern?
Pretty good. Pretty good. We had we played some Monster Noir, but then we had a bad night where one folk couldn't get it together, didn't just couldn't, play. So we just hung out. We just had a hangout, like off stream, not streaming, just kicking it. And that was nice. It was nice to just kind of chill and hang out with some pals, because usually the only time I see people is on stream nowadays, and that's and that's just not the same, because it's usually we're streaming, let's go, we got pacing to do, or we're playing a game and that kind of thing. So it was nice to just chill. Grognard's is going great. Had an amazing episode. The team came into a icy cave, and they were attacked by whites, and they didn't know what they were, because again, I'm playing it very not, I'm not saying, well, the whites are charging down the hall. And I've been using monsters either reskinned or made up from Wilder Myth. And so they don't trust, as grognards, they don't trust anything right now. Nothing is, it's not a carrion crawler, they're like, maybe it's not. Everything he's thrown at us has weird hit dice and odd powers and stuff. So anyway,
as it should be.
And so the whites immediately critted the captain of the company, and he went down in the first shot, and they were like, run away. It was very, very cool, man. It was great to see the role play of it was fantastic. And then Sunday morning, Wilder Myth was great. And then we had the tragedy of 90 plus hours of gameplay, characters, story. Since we're airing our grievances and, having a drink, I think it was Steam. I think Steam just freaked out, and I don't know if it's my fault or not, but Stream lost its stuff. And I guess it was a pretty widespread Steam losing its stuff kind of thing. The servers glitched or something. But yeah, so I cannot get a recovery file from their cloud, from nothing. So
the great downside of cloud saves is that when the sun comes out, you have lost your save.
Yes. So that's what I was hoping for, and we tried, and I was able to, like I said, I was worried on Sunday if I had to be a substitute for Waterdeep in your game on Sunday night. I was not going to be able to get that. Anyway, yeah. So computer's back up and running. We're good. We're gonna hit it again come Sunday for some Wilder Myth, and then I'm back here on Tuesdays. So. Yeah, and I don't have my Call of Cthulhu till next week, I think, the 20th or something. So, went good.
Awesome.
Saw that you obviously had some streams going on.
I've been keeping busy, trying a few things out. Gear, welcome aboard. We're glad you got your cup of coffee. A perfectly reasonable choice for happy hour. We would prefer it with a wee bit of Bailey's. But that's entirely up to you. Yeah, it's been oddly smooth. It's been busy, but smooth. The convergence is going along. We've had no major hitches thus far. Since the great, what do you mean you don't like my NPC? The story's being derailed moment. But it's been going really well. They've actually picked up 2 new NPCs that they like.
Hmm.
which is kind of fun. I'm a little proud of myself. I did a lore dump
Oh.
without a lore dump. It
Hmm.
wasn't
Ah.
the DM will now tell you how this all came to be. It was the NPC says, well, don't you remember when X and Y happened and that caused all of these other things to happen? I'm doing this in character, and like the whole party is like only half listening because they're all rapidly scribbling notes. Like, oh, this is a lore dump. This is a lore dump. Quick, get it down. Which was a lot of fun. And so that game's going well. Dragon Heist is coming along great. I'm
Mhm.
really enjoying running that. I actually had someone say, just run it again
Right.
because we've been kicking around what we're going to do on. So that's my Wednesdays, my Sunday, my 2 morning coffee streams have been
Mhm.
going pretty well. I've had some tech issues with the VR, but
Mm.
we have a daddy daughter. We do
Yeah.
the daddy daughter dual dance on Monday nights now. My kitty K and I, my 10-year-old, and we take
Yeah.
turns doing augmented reality Beat Saber,
Nice.
which has been a lot of fun. And I'm glad I locked it into a night, so it's like it's an easy one that I know she's awake. I know we
Right.
can
Right.
do it. She's a natural. I'm kind of hoping we can get some momentum behind it because she so desperately wants to talk to chat. She so desperately wants to talk to chat, and she's a bigger number watcher than I am. So she's like, Dad, we only have 2 people watching. I'm like, yep. We don't look at the numbers, honey. We just have fun. But Dad, it's just 2 people. I'm like, yeah, but that's 2 people. I
Right.
think one of them is us. Yes, one of them is us,
And that's
but that's okay. We don't do it for
Exactly.
the numbers. We do it for the people, like the amazing Arwin Atreides, who is here from our Sunday night game. And then it looks like I'm adding a 3rd game to my repertoire of games that I'm running weekly, and that other pond and her dear friend Lesbianic Fury decreed that I am going to run a game.
I see.
I kind of I vaguely, because Pond normally streams Saturday mornings U.S. time,
Right.
and
Yeah.
she
Yeah.
streams with Les, who is on Australian time.
Oh.
So it's one of those where Les has gone out and she's come back from the pub. If she could go to a
Right.
pub, she's in Australia. They're not doing anything down there. But
Yeah.
either way, so she's like 11 o'clock at night, her time. She's hopping on a Zoom call with Pond. So
Yeah.
she's having a nightcap. Pond is having a morning coffee, and the 2 just chill.
Right.
And I kind of half said, hey, would you guys want to play D&D with that time slot?
Yeah.
But I don't want to take you away from your stream. I don't want to get in your way. I don't want to ruin your vibe. And a week later, they're like, we have characters. We have backstory. What are you running for us?
Yeah. Exactly.
And I'm like, oh, okay. So that's a thing now. We've got Daddy Wisdom, who is a British, I think British. He's in England. He's in on the game. We have room for one more, and I'm really trying to push towards a European player
Right.
because
Right.
of the time slot. To hey, this
Right.
is a great chance if you're looking for a game on a Saturday night for a couple of weeks.
Yep.
And then originally I was going to run a book-based one where I don't have to think. And would you believe I saw a TikTok video of full disclosure, modified "What Shall We Do with a Drunken Sailor" lyrics. And I went, that's it. That's the plot.
Perfect.
So it's going to be very sandboxy, and our
Right,
session 0 is actually going to be world building,
Ah,
wherein
nice.
I'm not building the world.
Right.
We are going to brainstorm it, and whatever goes up, goes up.
Oh, that's so
And
good.
they're going to decide, is it a principality? Is it a kingdom? What's the king's name? How big of a continent is it? What's their navy look like?
Archipelago.
Yeah, how are we? It's going to be a sea-based game. It's pirates,
Right.
and there's a king,
Perfect.
or duke, or lord, or prince, or emperor,
Right.
something. And if they want to be their own nobles, fine, but you're from over there
Right. Right.
because you're not nobles here, because that's not going to work. But the rest of it's very hey, whatever you guys bring to the table, we'll work in there. So I don't have to.
That's one of the things back when I would do conventions before the plague. I would love to run Dungeon World, and that's how the game would start. Okay, what's the name I would just ask the table, what's the name of the big bad guy? Okay.
Yep.
And where are we going? And they, no matter what they say, the well of eternal burning souls, well of eternal burning souls,
Got it.
and that's so
Well, and
yeah. Oh, that's awesome.
That's the Kids on Bikes method too. That's their like recommended. When you go in, you just the players like. So what's the big creepy thing in town? Oh, the abandoned observatory. Ooh, that's a good one. Yeah. What do we think is up there? Well, what's a rumor about it? And then you just kind of like turn the players over. And even that one, I'm not daring enough to do that with this group. But it's the idea though where the players are the ones who are like, so what do we find in there? Well, it'd be really cool. What if we found zombies? It's not the CIA, it's zombies. Okay, you find zombies. That would be really cool. So that's what you find.
Are they fast zombies or slow zombies?
Yeah, what kind of zombies do you want to fight? Let's do the fast ones. Like, okay. And yes,
on their huffy bikes.
it is a marvelous thing to be the Pirate King. There will be a Pirate King at some point. That's for sure. And that's not the PCs. Even if they start at 3rd level, they are not Pirate Kings.
My first real job, other than like working on farms and newspaper routes and stuff, was in a kitchen. The head chef, he had starred in his high school musical as the Pirate King in the oh my God, why can't I think of it? Anyway, the big pirate musical. Anyway,
Pirates of Penzance?
Thank you.
That's what you're going for? There you go.
And he would just sing the parts like loud, like fill the kitchen with the it is a one a marvelous thing to be the Pirate King. So.
And that's the way it rolls. The thing I also think is really neat with the Kids on Bikes methodology is they also point out something that we kind of forget as dungeon masters. We don't really need to assign difficulties to things. Like if you were to ask a player how hard it is to jump up, well, how high do you think the ceiling is? Or how the roof? Well, it's about 10 feet. Okay, well, how hard is it to jump for your character to jump and climb up 10 feet? Moderately hard. Okay, well, moderate difficulty is 12.
Right.
What job did I fill as the dungeon master in this conversation?
Right.
Like I literally did nothing except ask you some leading questions, and you filled in the rest on your own without me doing much anything.
That's sort of my style of DMing. In Monster Noir, for the first year plus of it, it was such an improv game. I would come with 2 leads. I would just have 2 things that I would introduce to the story, and the rest of Monster Noir was up to the players to kind of, I would say, you find this or this happens, and then from there it's just yes and.
Sounds a lot like school. Yeah, Arwen, I'll give you that, Shadow. Good afternoon. But the logic is eventually the DM stops asking the questions, because in theory, once you've laid the seeds and you've got everyone talking, you don't even have to ask the questions anymore, because they're like, okay, so we're agreed the zombies are chasing us. That makes sense. Okay, cool. Are we going to make it? I don't know. Well, we're going to outrun them, right? Well, that's a speed check. Okay. And it's like, what's the DM doing now but watching and enjoying? And every once in a while going, don't forget, guys, you have this thing going on. Crap, that's right. We have to find his sister.
Right. And she was at the mall, and now we have to. Yep. Oh man.
Yeah. So it'll be an interesting time. I'm really geeked about it. I'm hoping to find another really good player to flesh out the table. I'm excited to have Daddy Wisdom at the table. It's the first time I've played with him. I'm excited to have Les at the table. First time I've played with her. I've watched her play. I'm a wee bit nervous about my PG-13 rating because she only has 2 settings: retail and profanity.
Yeah.
I don't want to tell her she has to be in retail mode the whole time. But it should be fun. So that's
pull down her, profanity to a below NC-17 maybe. um, and I didn't realize Dr. Gear was in the audience when I was talking about the whites. Now he knows.
he knows the secret. Well, I did that to my players in the Convergence. I don't know if I mentioned this
Yeah.
before, but I didn't like any of the stats for dragons at CR 4 to 6.
Mm-hmm.
So I grabbed a Gorgon and used that.
Right.
And I really like the idea of the breath weapon not being a shika, 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 boom. You take 30 damage, 30 ice damage. It's like, there's an effect.
Right.
Which,
yeah.
Have I talked about what happened with that? Did I tell you how she got out of that? Oh, it's brilliant. So it's Katie, the cleric, LK's character, is being encased in ice because she failed her first con save. And it's like, you feel pretty soon you're going to be, completely frozen solid if something doesn't happen. And I'm expecting them to like try to smash the ice or just con save your way out of it. She goes, I cast heat metal on my armor. And I'm like, okay, well, no, I know I'm going to take damage, but I don't want to freeze to death. And I'm like, I'll allow it.
Mm-hmm. Good call.
Which I also did that when a player said, playbills are made of paper, right? Yeah. Because they were at the theater. And, and paper comes from trees, right? Yeah. Can I roll up a playbill and cast Shillelagh on it? Because it is wood.
Well,
Okay.
I can take a glossy magazine and use it as a weapon. So I'm just gonna say it's not too far fetched.
It is very much in the realm of the possible. It was 11. Yes, it was indeed a stroke of genius. And it was one of those moments where your players just surprise you sometimes.
Oh yeah.
And you just have to roll with it, which is part of the fun. So we were talking about, let's see, in the United States, yesterday was Valentine's Day. And I don't know if last year we talked about romance in games. We've flirted with it from time to time. We've never set out to make it our like dedicated topic of the week. So it seems apropos to finally take it on as an actual legitimate topic.
Yep. Yeah, I know that I have groused before on our show here about how it's like teeth pulling sometimes to get certain players. Like when we were growing up, there was no way. I tried to introduce romance or relationships and stuff, and it's really funny now because of like Critical Role and stuff. A lot of games are I have been in games, and then on the side people are like, okay, so this game's just going to turn into a complete game of grab ass. We're just everybody's just gonna be trying to be somebody else's partner and blah 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 blah. It's all love triangles and this and that, and so that's been nice to see the streaming community and to see the proliferation of characters actually having relationships and things. That's very cool. My buddy Satan, the Sunday morning show she runs over with Sarah, or Hype Goblin and RJ and Koss and those. There, she always just says it's a telenovela. It's like soap opera. It's Spanish soap opera is what she runs. On Sunday mornings. So, but.
Which you've got the right group, and that's what everyone's vibing for. That works.
Yeah, there's a game, Blue Rose, and I know I've brought it up before, but that was one of the first games that game systems that is it has mechanics for romance, and it's this high fantasy kind of thing, and it very much sets the stage for those kind of relationships, and it's kind of nice.
Now, speaking of mechanics, I have not picked up Strixhaven yet. Have you?
No,
Okay.
no. Well, okay, it's in my D&D Beyond. I have not read it.
Because I understand that there's an adventure in it, and or there are mechanics provided as part. Like, I don't know the particulars. I think I have the rough idea, which is romance is part of going to school. Well, let's be honest. That's half of our high school experience is dedicated to graduating, and half is dedicated to getting laid. And that's kind of high school in a nutshell. And so if I remember right, there are mechanics in there for tracking relationship status. And I think the intention was for various like NPCs to get around the players having to constantly role play it out. And
Right.
it's like if it's not really integral to the story to really get into that scene, to go,
Yeah.
I'm gonna stop at my girlfriend's house and grind some faction, and then I'll meet you guys later.
Yeah. The I haven't taken that hard a look. I was kind of like, ooh, owl folk and Hogwartsy. That's what I that's what I saw out of it. That I was like, snatch, grab, go.
Yeah, I haven't had even time to think about cracking it. Arwen, I will be picking your brain later for more details about what they do with it. And I'm taking the man's word at the Blue Rose. The only mechanics I remember from the good old days when it came to RPGs and romance in the games was the X-rated D&D manual.
Right. Yep.
That I thumbed through at a B. Dalton Books once and was like, whoa, that's a lot of tables. And then I put it back on the shelf because I'm like, not interested. Plus my mother will murder me.
So I fortunately was in college when that came out, and my buddy Big James was like, this is the best thing ever. we need this in games. And I have been a proponent now for years and years of there needs to be more sex in D&D, but sex and romance, we could pull those apart too. Also, Dr. Gear talks about Blue Rose because that Blue Rose was an SCA group, a Society for Creative Anachronism group. So
the serious LARPers.
Yes, hardcore bang gong, real armor and sticks. So, yeah,
the hardcore gamers, which nothing but respect for. Only read the first chapter concerning writing. Well, keep me posted, Arwen. In fact, if you'd like to guest DM on a particular channel, all I ask is that I have a seat at the table. It would be kind of fun once to like not have to do all the other work of streaming. Like my whole job is just to make sure the Zoom call works.
Right. Yeah, and then go to break. Click.
I can do that. It'll be fun.
And that'd be an amazing one too, I think, for to see you play as a teacher coming from that, because it's a school thing, and
as a teacher, I want to be a kid again.
I know, but that's what I'm saying is that you get to be the kid. You know what I mean? So you've got years of problem children to draw from.
I will say it is kind of fun as a teacher, like, because I've run Teenagers from Outer Space a couple of times, which is a great little, it's a thin book. It has in its entirety maybe 3 pages of rules. And the rest is like just lore building / RPG tips. So it's one of those books that came out in the 80s. It's an R. Telesaurian game. Or 90s, more than likely, and you can pick it up. You can read the whole thing in maybe half an hour, and be ready to play. But there's a lot like running it was kind of neat to see people get back into high school mode. And the other thing I always thought was really fascinating was talking to people, watching them play, who themselves were only 4 years out of high school, who had completely forgotten what high school looks like. They're like, oh yeah, because I'm going to go do this and this and this. And I'm going to go talk to this teacher. And I'm like, are you serious? You think that actually happens? Like, you can't. It's a game. It's a story. Who cares? But it's definitely a fun one.
Uh, I got to play that on a stream once. It was really great because I made a mohawk and had my old army coat on and stuff, and it was
So tell the truth.
so fun.
Were you human, near human, or really weird?
I was really weird. I was a rhinoceros man from Doctor Who.
Ah,
You know, the rhino race. I can't remember what they're called. But yeah, I got to play a rhinoceros with a mohawk, and you know, visiting visiting Earth.
yes. Those are good stuff. And they also have, like, again, on the topic of romance, I think one of the things I think is really neat in that book that they emphasize is that if you're going for humor,
Mm-hmm.
actually having a couple end up alone somewhere is not funny.
Mm,
Denying them an opportunity to be somewhere alone is funny.
yeah, right,
And,
right.
and that becomes like the table's goal is, oh, they're going to hook up. Okay, everybody that's not those two, what are we doing to them?
We
Like,
have to keep them alive.
something has to happen, folks. What's it gonna be?
Yeah.
And at one point, yes, in one of my games, we did have a reenactment of Les Miserables
Nice.
because they built a barricade at the end of the rich kid's driveway in order to keep the ruffians out. All the rich kids from the country club were manning the barricade to keep the middle class away from the younger sister.
I see. I see.
We went for a lot of dramatic irony.
There had to be like a rose trellis on the side of the house or something and whatnot.
TMNT characters, those can be fun. That's a good
Yeah.
system for goofiness.
Yeah, the rhinoceros is character in particular. I always pull my rhino character from Usagi Yojimbo, his Usagi's buddy Ronin Jen, the bounty hunter. Gotta love him. But yeah,
Rocksteady and Bebop.
Let's see what other. I mean, over the years, like I said, when we were in high school, I would try to do these things. Oh, Dr. Gear's here, but I'm going to tell this. So,
Ooh, a Dr. Gear story.
well, it's not about him. It's about the current game. So the guys show up, Lieutenant Salt. No, wait, Lieutenant Smith and Arthur, who's a retired soldier who's now like he's a pistolier and he's the banner bearer for the thing, and he's an NPC. They meet the illustrious, beautiful daughter of one of the local like landlords kind of thing. Like he controls one of the fiefs. They meet her and I'm like, hey, give me a charisma saving throw kind of thing. And they both roll and I'm like, oh yeah, you see this woman and she's so beautiful and blah 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 and on and I give a description and whatnot and they're both like, oh, they tried to charm. There's spells going on and they and I'm like, no, she's just stunningly beautiful. You just stunningly beautiful. There's no magic there. It just is. And so what was really the best part about that though, then is as they went along, that character who had almost gotten charmed by this young woman earlier, like not spell charm, just she's charming. She's just freaking charming. And it set the stage for him to like make horrible, like roll natural ones on insight checks for everybody else, the other NPCs he was meeting. So now he's convinced that there's a conspiracy going on and that there's some kind of cult or something going in the village and whatnot. So yeah, so that's actually something that one of the first times I did that. This is high school. I was like, oh, you see this individual, give me a, back then I can't remember what save it was, but they gave me a save and charm staves, wands, whatever chart it was under. Give me a save. And they missed the save. And I'm like, oh, you find this person, amazingly beautiful, very attractive, blah, blah, blah. And they were just like, from that moment on, it was like, how can I kill them? They have power over me. And I understand now that, the agency thing and whatnot over characters, I probably in the past as part of my sins of yore, definitely had crossed some lines in that sort of thing.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, how many times in your life have you seen someone who is just stunning? I mean, just utterly stunning, and they just kind of like, whoa, what am I? Hello, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a real thing.
Well, that does get into your like, is it this is all building towards a. So how did session zero go?
Mm. Mm-hmm.
Because things like player agency are
Mm-hmm.
huge.
Right.
People don't come to a game to sit at the table and do nothing. And that's always a tough one, too. Like, I hate, I've said this before, but I'll say it again. I hate hold person spells,
Mm.
especially against PCs. I hate
Right.
hold person and I hate counterspell
Yeah.
because both of them say, haha, miss a turn.
Right.
And now that said, I also acknowledge in the action economy, if you can put hold person on one of the PCs, this fight just got 25% easier
Right.
or 25% harder, depending on which side of the DM screen you're on.
Right.
But it definitely, like, even before you talk romance, you have to start talking about, I may have done it, doesn't mean I liked it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. The so wait, for instance, what we got something? No.
Oh, yeah, I just got called out.
Oh, I see. I call foul. Um,
It
so
brought me no pleasure.
mm,
None.
denied. Um, yeah, so that is a big debate. We should maybe sometime have a show on spells and magic and talk about that. But um, yeah. So again, player agency and whatnot. So sometimes it's good when you're putting a cast together, if that's a part of the game you want to be present, depending on what the game or the situation is. Sometimes it's really good to just kind of either talk about it beforehand or in your session zero. Hey, how about our characters be a couple? I did a season on Encounter Roleplay, Weave the Tale now, where we made two characters that were a couple, and they were, I played like a Michael Myers horror, with like a white mask, and I was just a big monster with a redonkulous sword, and they and the other character, the relationship, she was like this waif, and she like talked to spiders and stuff. So we were this weird, creepy couple in the midst of this apocalyptic wasteland. And because we set it up beforehand, it made for a great dynamic throughout the campaign, because you could put one of us in trouble and then the other was going to do something about it, so as the DM, it's just automatic,
Yep.
fodder.
Well, and that builds really well into those conversations. And it's a weird spot you want to aim for because, on the one hand, it's neat to kind of know what your players are looking for.
Mm-hmm.
And on the other hand, it's a real detractor because you're like, okay, so like, I don't want to give away all the plot right now.
Mm-hmm.
I want there to be something that's going to be coming out of this as we go along. And that's the kind of thing that like really depends on your player group. So how much you want to give away about what's going to happen.
Right.
What's on the table, what's not. I also think it'd be really fun to like sit down and say at that session zero, I think our characters should be a couple, but not yet.
Right. And that's something too, like I played in the game, I think the game's called Coriolis. It was one of the first games of that game, or streamed games of that game system. And it was really neat because it started off where it was like, after a couple sessions, we had a talk afterwards, and I'm like, okay, I think my character likes your character, and do you want to do anything with that? And they were like, oh, well, I'm actually, I'm actually in love with this third character. So then there was this great, love triangle thing going on. And yeah, it completely gave a really good bit of drama because that third person did not like them. And they didn't like my character either, but it was this total three-way unrequited love thing that just it was a beautiful role play. So it can be fun. I would totally you know push that narrative out there. If you can put romance in your game, go for it.
Yep. And what I'm seeing it too with as rare as we get together, the Candlekeep game, I never really thought was intended to have a romance.
Mm.
Because I think there was always like a little bit of flirting going on,
Mm-hmm.
but I thought that's what it was going to be. And then it's like over the months that we've played together, it has gone into a like full on unspoken romance.
Right.
Because
Right.
it started off with a
See.
little like, oh, I'm going to get a little something for so and so, and
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna leave her a little trinket to surprise her by. I'm gonna sleight of hand it into her bag, and then it's like we were doing Shemshime's bedtime rhyme, and one of the characters was like, okay, I want to. One of the characters was caught in the song, and so then one said, okay, we need to snap her out of it. She's not making her saves. I kiss her. And it was like, the whole table was like, okay, that's a thing now. And it was like one of the first overt romantic actions between them.
Right.
And it was from a point of stress and pressure. It was really cool.
Yeah. Well, and had they talked about it beforehand?
Not to my knowledge. To my knowledge, it's been one of
Yeah.
those, we're going to be flirting the whole way through. Hey, Battlefly, glad to have you hanging out here. Arwen brings up a really good point, and Shadow echoes it, which is always been interested in playing out a relationship arc, but I'm too shy about making things weird unintentionally.
So session 0, I'm going to tell you right now, session 0 is an amazing time to just go, I know you're saying you're shy, but just to kind of either tell your DM beforehand or just be brave and just say,
Wow.
hey, does anyone want to have a character relationship? I mean, siblings or frenemies or anything like that to bring a little more drama to the table. And then if it goes just all awkward, just say, hey, if I as a player, I'm open to that. So if we get playing and it feels right or whatever, just let me know and we can follow that storyline.
Well, and it's tricky too because players come in all shapes and sizes. My dear friend Liz, who plays in our Sunday night game, Lorelai is kind of Liz. I mean, Liz is a woman of a certain age, who has lived a very full life. She's a widow now, relatively young. She dances, she teaches, and I mean, she leaves nothing on the table.
Right.
And so Lorelai, her rogue, nay bard, also leaves nothing on the table.
Right.
Which
right.
is can be really hard to play off because part of that's Liz's personality.
Right.
And if you're like, I'm a little bit shy, she's like, I'm not. I'm all in on this.
And that's you can always use your and fade to black. Type stuff. Again, talking through things in your session 0. It's a good place to start with that sort of thing. I forget what I was playing. Aliens, I think, the newer Aliens system. And by playing that, one of the NPC who was our captain was like, hey, you want to go burn off some stress? and like I said, that it's an NPC, and I'm like, yeah, can we just like cut to the scene where they like slam against the wall in the bathroom and like knock something over or whatnot, and they're just kind of doing that, and then we cut away from the scene, and
Yes. Yes, we can.
and
Yes.
that was the DM. The DM was like, yeah, that's amazing. So
That's
yeah, it was
exactly
good.
how it should be, in my opinion.
I was
Uh,
thinking about,
Trying for something didn't really, and that can happen. The only trick to that, I think we're putting a lot of weight on session 0 here to say,
mm-hmm.
I want to try this, I want to try that. Can we go do this other thing? And like, you also have to have room to have lots of session 0.1s
Mm-hmm.
because a lot of those things are there. It can be hard as a DM. I'm now speaking very much as the DM of the game that Arwen's talking about. It can be very hard to recognize when you need to give players time to
Yeah.
do that, or
Right.
to give them a moment to say, hey, here's a chance you can have to go do this thing if you wanted to. And so that comes down to that. I kind of want to role play this a little bit because it might be kind of fun to see how the scene plays out. I need a scene that will do blank.
Right.
Or, Arwen really, or Chrysanthemum really wants to head back to that bakery. I want to try to drag Raylona along. And it's like, okay, if you want to do that, we can totally do that.
Yeah. Don't be afraid to ask for scenes. And then
Mhm.
if two, if it's not going to fit in the pacing of the game or whatever, do that on the side. Discord's there. Talk about it and go, hey, blah, 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 blah. And then later on, you can always just go, hey, we have a little flashback of me and whoever holding hands and walking in the park or whatever, and then jump forward, and then you see them holding hands again here, and as they head out to the next adventure or whatnot. Yeah.
Something I haven't gotten into much since I returned to kind of like gaming again and gaming in the virtual space
Mm-hmm.
that happened a lot in MMORPGs is we had a lot of role play that happened on our forums outside of the
Mm-hmm.
game.
Yes.
Where we'd be playing together in game, we'd have a great scene happen, or we go off on a mission together, and we'd have some really good flirting during the mission, and we're like, hey, we should do a scene together, like off this. Like let's start a forum thread, and you and I can like do a play by post role play of like the date.
Right.
So rather than blocking out 2 hours to role play in text in the game, in like City of Heroes, we're like, okay, we're going to take a week
Right.
and develop this exchange at the restaurant.
Yeah.
And there's really nothing stopping. I mean, I have not yet utilized this with my games, partially because everything's been a very like pell-mell. There hasn't been. I'm thinking. Let's see. Curse of Strahd has no downtime. Dragon Heist Waterdeep has no downtime.
Right.
I'm going back to Ravenloft. Not a lot of downtime. The Convergence. I have no clue if there's romance happening with that group. I'm just going to level with y'all. Like, I don't get it. And I thought I got it because I gave Evelyn a backstory where she had a potential romantic entanglement, and she like jumped on that romantic entanglement. She's like, yes, romantic entanglement. And then I introduced another NPC that reminded her of the entanglement because they were actually the same person, but from different realities. And she was like ready to pounce on the second romantic entanglement. I'm like, okay, cool. Then I introduced a third potential entanglement thinking, ooh, now I'm understanding how Evelyn thinks. Here's a romantic entanglement I will later manipulate. And she's like, I'm the cool aunt to that kid, and I'm going to take her under my wing. And I'm like, what? She's like 4 years younger than you. What do you mean? Well, she can legally drink in our world. What do you mean she's just a kid?
I have spoken.
Player agency is a thing.
Exactly.
So, I mean, it can always be a little hard. It helps to kind of, and the thing I have never been good at, and then Shadow, I'm not ignoring your point because I think it's valid.
Mm-hmm.
I have not been good at talking to the players directly to say, I'm wondering if we should, like, how you would react to this NPC coming in for potential romance.
Yep.
And that's on me. Like, that's me going, I don't want to make the table awkward either.
Right.
And as a cis white male in the stream TTRG space with a lot of women as my players, I'm very aware of not wanting to make my table awkward.
You're right.
But that also isn't entirely fair to my players. Like, I should be like, hey, what do you think? And I should trust them to say,
Yeah.
nope, that would make me awkward.
Yeah. And again, as far as Shadow talking to you specifically, as far as like those relationships and such, I mean, we have so much offline stuff that we can do for games too, that, even if you want to say play like some kind of romance off screen, I mean, there's no point. There's no point. There's no reason to not say, hey, do you know my character likes your character, and just see what happens. Not been ideal.
That's what I want to do with my fantasy game. And that, my friends, is the core thought.
Complicated enough in real life.
Yeah. And it depends so much on what kind of stories you want to tell with your fantasies. I knew a dude in college that was, I kid you not, 7'1", 275 pounds. He was like, he was just a huge, huge guy. And we're all going around the table with what characters we are. And his girlfriend, who was maybe 5'1", sweet, cute little woman, is describing this tall, sensuous sorceress she's playing. And another guy's, the next around the table, he's the stoic ranger who's always got his hood down so you can never actually see his eyes. No one knows what color they are because no one's seen them. And then we get to this guy, he's like, yeah, I play a 4'9" wizard, weighs about 75 pounds. He's got this short, cropped little like buzz cut. We all kind of look at him. He's like, you got your fantasies, I got mine.
Yep.
And I'm like, okay, no judgment. No judgment. It's like, for once, I'd like to be someone who can stand behind somebody and not get noticed. I'm like, that's legit. Okay.
Yeah. And to it, it depends on the group, like, so right now in my sandbox, I've put forth a couple of characters that are, NPCs with romance possibilities in my Saturday night game. And the Dr. Gear there is like, meh, no, not happening. Gonna just leave that out. But it's been really funny because Muddy's like, oh, so the mayor, she's a widow, huh? She just needs a strapping young captain to marry her, type thing. And I'm like, see, that's awesome. That's 80. You put the scenes out there. You plant the seeds and see if something grows.
Yeah, and it's nothing against any player that says, I don't need it.
Mm-hmm.
As long as we do not yuck on other people's yums. And if everyone at the table agrees it's a possibility, and someone goes, I want to pursue the mayor, as long as everyone's like, okay, let's let you have some time to pursue the mayor, and then kind of go, sweet. And if not, then Snorhawk, welcome aboard. That's still an option. You can still go that direction. You can still do the thing. And whatnot. Now, a thing about one-shots, I think this is kind of critical in my opinion, is I think one-shots are great places to explore all kinds of wacky stuff because it's a one-shot. And so the trick there, in my opinion, is since you don't usually have a full session 0 for a one-shot, you have the host or hostess has said, okay, these are people I want to do a one-shot with. You come together, you introduce your characters. That's where you use things like the Zoom chat or Discord chat once you kind of get up and running. Goes, what if our characters have unrequited crushes? We got 4 hours at the table together. Do you think we can maneuver ourselves into a romantic moment? And any other player could go, no. And then you're good. If they go, ooh, that could be kind of fun, because now it's now you're on the clock.
Right.
How do we creatively create building romantic tension with characters that we barely know, that we're probably never going to see again? Because I mean,
Yeah.
think about your typical action film. They run what, 2 hours, 250 ish. You
Yep.
get a full rising fall romantic entanglement in almost every one of them. Let's be real. Bond gets the Bond girl and saves the world. And lately, the Bond girl does as much as Bond does.
Right.
Just saying.
Yeah. Some games like Masks is one that surprised the hell out of me the first time I played it, because I played it at a convention, and I was like, superhero game, I'm gonna play, and got to the table, and then it's built into some of the playbooks that you have romantic, because it's your high schoolers who are not quite full-fledged superheroes yet, and you're learning all your powers, and so it will literally say in the playbook, you love someone and hate someone in the team. And you're like, oh, okay, this is a convention and I have never met any of you. Hey, I've got to love somebody and hate somebody else.
Don't
you know,
Need somebody to love.
Yep,
Need
exactly.
somebody to love. Somebody. Anyway. Yeah, no, I can see. Well, and that's the thing. I've run kids at bikes at conventions. I ran kids at bikes at UConn, this very small Michigan convention. I had 3 people sign up for it, a father, a son, and another guy who was interested. And as we're going through, we did 1 hour of character building and then 2 hours of gameplay.
Right.
Because that's really how the game is set up. And one of the relationship roles that came up was, we'll get to that in a second.
Nice.
One of the ones was, why are you deeply in love with this character? And I'm like, and I looked at the dad and I looked at the son and went, okay, I'm going to re-roll that one. Because I'm not doing that to you guys. I'm sure you're phenomenal guys and great gamers, but no. Session 0, Kiss, Marry, Kill PC edition. Fair.
I love that, actually. That should definitely be there needs to be a game system where that is in the rules right there. So
yeah, and that's
I love her hair.
I love her hair. Hey, there's something to be said for it. And again too, and here's like if you've got a group that has the right vibe in a session 0, you could put it out there as like a legit icebreaker kind of thing. Like, look, if we have to put the chips down, what's it going to be? And it kind of lays it all out there. Now, the twist is that has to almost be like a session 0 for an established group that's like, okay, we're going to sit down and play a game together. Our first session is to knock out our characters and talk about our backstories and talk about our relationships with each other and kind of decide how this group became a group. Unless your whole plan is for the first adventure to be the group building, with the caveat that they're a group at the end of the first adventure.
Correct.
I've seen a couple of games where it's like, well, we're gonna use the first module to be how we find out the group's backstory and how they got together, and then you're like halfway through, like, there's no way these 4 people are going on a second adventure together. It's just not gonna happen.
The rogues pickpocketing to Dr. Gear's credit, he did, in his backstory, his druid does have multiple children, and he sent his pay off with messengers to be split up amongst his children. So
he's a responsible druid.
I know, man.
He takes care of his crops, as it were. The DM set the party together to build the world. Then we jumped 50 years into the future. We set up so much stuff and didn't expand it, and then the DM said, that's where I come in. Yeah, I can see that as far as from the world building point of view of that. Like, let's kind of lay some foundations. You do the foundation laying. I will build on that, and then you guys show up.
Right.
That's kind of clever.
Yeah. And in that, sometimes you can go, hey, high elf, you were there at the dawn when this epic thing happened because you're 500 years old or whatever, and you were there then. So now you're like, as this is happening and it comes up in the storyline, what do you know about the fall of Gungundur or whatever, and then that player can then go, ooh, okay.
You could also do things like do a session -1. Oh, this just hit me. I got to share this. It's fresh in my brain. Everyone check me on this. Session -1. I hand you a pre-generated level 15 character. Now, you get to pick. I will arrive at the table with 12. There are 4 of you. Which 12 do you pick? We begin the adventure. It's a short adventure. It's like the climactic part of the adventure. And then some of them die in the final scene. Like that's on the table. It's going to be a really hard combat. It's an elder dragon or it's a demi. It's a god. They have to seal away again.
Right.
Lock it down and seal it away. And guaranteed some of these pre-gens die during that thing. Okay, cool. That was fun, guys. I'm glad we had a good time. We're going to meet next week for session 0. You are playing the grandchild of the character that you played for our session -1. We're going to talk about it at session 0.
Perfect.
And we're going to, and that's what you have to build off of.
Yeah.
Whatever you want to do with it. And the neat thing is you don't even have to be like totally tied to it because it's like, well, I picked the wizard for the fun of it, but I rather want to play a fighter. Sweet.
Yeah.
You're the first fighter in generations in this family. That's not going to bring baggage with it. I mean, you go, what do you do when you go home? So how was dungeoning today, honey? It sucks. My sword kept getting caught in things. Well, Backguano doesn't get caught in anything because it burns up on impact.
And if you had prestidigitation, you wouldn't come into the house with those soily boots.
Yes, Mom. If we all have prestidigitation.
I'm
just saying, it's like you're not bound by anything.
Yeah.
But it could still be like a fun, like creative thing to put on top of it all to get them kind of thinking. There was a giant otter that attacked and killed people. Then we forgot about it until we finished so far. This is my favorite. Yeah. Oh yeah. Players can never forget anything because the DM won't either. But I'm doing that for my DM's log for this week for the Convergence. I am now just down to I'm listing all the lore dump points.
Yeah.
Because I want to have them recorded so I can also go back and go, by the way, guys, this is important lore stuff that's really relevant to the world you're in. Do not forget it.
Yeah, I've been having trouble in the Saturday night game, the old school game there with notes and keeping track and letting these guys know because we all have lives, and then you come back on Saturday night and all of a sudden, oh yeah, who was the thing, and did we met someone at the beginning like 8 sessions ago, but we only play once a week, so that's like 2 months ago we met this dwarf.
Well, try that my monthly game. I can't keep games going on the monthly, and we've missed months because of the holidays,
right?
And because of other things that have just happened. We were all gung ho last weekend, and one of the players got really sick, and it was like, well, we don't. And we're at this point now where we don't want to play without all 5 of us at the table,
right? Yeah,
it's like we have such a fun chemistry, but it means multiple months between sessions.
Right. Yeah. I also talking about a killer otter. To this day, 20 some years ago, Muddy still talks about an encounter with giant skunks in 2nd edition, 1st or 2nd edition, stuff. So yeah, some of those things can just be amazing when you think of this weird little encounter at level 2, and that clicks and it sticks with the party for 15, 20 levels.
I think kind of looping all of this back again.
Yeah.
For the players that want to explore a romantic option, there's so much that we've flirted with we've said outright about the importance of just playing good old-fashioned the communication piece. Having the courage not to pursue the romantic option per se, but to say, I think my character is going to be sweet on that character. I kind of want that out there.
Yeah.
And giving everyone at the table time to go, Yeah, I don't know how I feel about that versus rock on, you go get him, girl.
No.
And I think that the biggest one is to give the rest of the table time to talk about it, reflect on it. Is this going to change anything? Is this going to set anything up?
Yep.
How do you want to handle that so that everyone still keeps having fun?
Right. Right. Yeah. And, and sometimes too, like I said, just having the DM, if you want that and you don't feel comfortable, just maybe say in a note before session 0 to the DM, just say, hey, does anybody want to have a romance character or a romance between characters? And you might have two people who've never talked or met before go, sure, yeah. And then they go, okay, what do you want to, and then they can propagate it from there. So
Personally, again, now when you say personally against, Nate, I'm curious what you mean by that. Like, do you feel like you don't want it at your table, or you feel like there's something, it's just is something that you as a player don't want to engage with, or even as a DM, you're like, I'd rather not get involved. If you PCs want to have romance, go do that. Because I'm just a little curious to see kind of what you mean by that, because there's a lot of different ways we can go with that thought, and it's good too. I think if you're not cool with it, it's perfectly fine. Don't be cool with it.
yeah, if you don't want to run it and you don't want it at your table, again, they can always take that to Discord or to, text chats or whatever, and they could be totally super in love and it just never shows up at the table.
Or if it does, it's the kind of thing I think you can still have it as a role play element between the characters. Like, for example, in the Saturday morning cartoon game, as I'm referring to it casually, the unofficial title of the campaign is "You're Off the Map Now." The Pond and Les are coming in as the non-couple.
Perfect.
So they're two people who are clearly in a deep, loving relationship who refuse to acknowledge that they are deeply in love with each other.
Got it.
So there, and it's like it has a lot of potential to be fun. It doesn't have to be central to the story. It can just be like part of their banter between the back and the forth. And you have that room to kind of like say, maybe it doesn't come up a lot. It just becomes some one-liners during combat, or a little bit of pressure, like, oh crap, the one character's about to go down. I'm going to make a non-optimal move because my character would risk her life for that character.
Exactly.
And that can still be fun. Players flirting in any capacity kind of makes me player mind was okay, yeah. Well, that's the twist. Depending on the vibe of your table, it's perfectly valid to say, guys, I am going to be a little wigged out if y'all get flirty with each other. And that's especially true for family-based games. Like, I know with my kids, I don't with my wife and my two children playing D&D with me, I really don't want romance on the table. And if Kitty K goes, oh, but is he cute? Maybe I'll like him. It's like, yes, you like him, and you go over there and you smooch, and we move on. And that's it.
It really can, I mean, that's like we said, that's all set up at your table, at your session 1 and stuff. Today, it's good to kind of have Battlefly Nate. I'm glad you're here because, again, we're talking about how to do the romance thing and some tips and tricks and things you can do with it. But if it's not part of your table, it's just not part of your table.
Yeah. There's a lot of room for that to grow at. Hasn't been an issue. There you go. Yep. And the biggest thing I love is the ability to very casually say to each other, especially because the thing about romance subplots, they tend to be very focused on traditionally Western culture, on two people.
Right.
You may get a third involved depending on how cool everyone at the table is about such things. Yep. But even then, like real life, 3 people is tricky. So we'll leave it at that. But you do that idea though, where it's like there are 5 people at the table, and 2 of them are role playing out this romantic banter, and the rest of you are all kind of going, is there still pizza? And you can do that for a little time, and then it's like, okay, the rest of us want to play too. And that's where the power of the fade to black comes in. I'm a huge fan of, okay, clearly this is going somewhere. We're going to
Mm-hmm.
fade to black. I need to know, for roleplay purposes and storytelling, where did it go during the black? And then you get things like, oh yeah, they just made out. Cool. Oh yeah, it's going to cost 3 gold to fix the tavern room they rented. Got it. You have all those things you can do, and go back and forth. One of my players did the horny character thing with the barmaid. And that character was someone I had lots planned for, did not make sense. Yep. And that's why you have that conversation.
Oh.
2 PCs having a romantic relationship outside the game. Sounds like the players are using it as an excuse to flirt. That does happen too. That can happen too, but it depends on the players. I think being real, 21-year-old me would have had a harder time keeping all of my brain cells separated than 47-year-old me does.
Well, so we'll speak to this, and Dr. Gear will understand. We had a individual in our gaming group, Penny, and Penny basically was there to flirt and hang out with the guys, and so that it sometimes caused situations, and sometimes it didn't, and like you said, 20 something me was like, okay, yeah, just that is that gonna happen, is that a thing? Great, next. And kept the story going because I had 9 players in that game, and it was just ridiculous. So
yeah. And if people are having, and again, it comes down to afraid of accidentally making other people's real life relationships awkward with in-game flirting. I feel you on that. When Mrs. Noir and I were dating, she was not part of the fancy LARP I was in. In the fancy LARP I was in, my character at the time was in a romantic relationship. This is all well and good. I was very good friends with the young lady who played the character that my character was in a relationship with. And oddly enough, if my life depended on it, I could not recall her name right now. I remember her character's name was Island Way.
Yeah.
I remember that. But I was like this weird moment where Mrs. Noir said, well, I want to come to the LARP and see what it's all about. And I went, okay, now this is where things are hard. Because if you don't like it and you quit, this other person I have spent months developing our character's relationship. We've had lots of times to role play. We've had times to sit down and talk. She's a nice person. I'm sure you will love her. But I also don't want to end that role play.
Right.
Because it's kind of a neat story we have going. At the same time, it's like, but I love you. You're my girlfriend, and would eventually go on to become my fiance and my spouse and partner. How do we square that circle? And I have no podcast is long enough to explain how to do that for all people. My advice on that, honestly, Arwen, to directly answer that issue, is you talk to the person out of game. And if they say, yeah, I don't flirt in my RPGs because I only flirt with this other human being over here, and I know it's just a game, but that's the rule I live by. That's the rule they live by.
Yep.
And that's perfectly valid. I know people who will never role play alcohol because they do not drink. They don't touch it. They don't joke about it. That's it. No judgment. It doesn't have to be part of the game.
Right.
We don't judge that. If they say Bon Jovi's not the greatest band to come out of the 80s and 2000, we judge that.
Nope, another time. Throw that key away. Just throw that key away.
Communication. Yes.
There was a great game I was in where we went back in time. It was a time traveling game. It was streamed, and we went back in time to a Bon Jovi concert. And I've got interesting relationship issues when Bon Jovi was like the band, and a girl. Anyway, a mess. Oh, a real mess with Bon Jovi. So
Well, and
we'll
too,
agree to
and
not
Nate brings
talk
up
about
another
it.
good point is that it can be very hard to role play outside your experience.
Mm,
Alcohol is one of those things where if you've never imbibed, it can be hard to role play accurately. Otherwise, it tends to be very caricature. Romance, not gonna lie, not that different.
hmm
And the one thing I will say is kind of like my kind of rounding out our conversation today that I thought was really neat that I saw yesterday on Twitter had to do with the question of how many trans people used tabletop RPGs to discover their true identities. And one of the things I put out there was I'm pretty sure that's a feature, not a bug.
Right,
That
right, right.
part of the role play space is a chance to explore a headspace you're not familiar with and kind of, talk about it with other people.
Yeah,
Usually in a safe environment because you're all friends at the table on one level or another.
yeah, yeah. I can see where that definitely would open, opportunities, if nothing else, to if you were playing with a friend group, to then kind of judge the friend group, and if somebody's really weird about it or whatnot,
Hmm.
you know, because I can remember back in the days where you're gonna play a girl, and
If you play a
and
girl, I'm going to aggressively flirt with her.
yeah,
I am not friends with that person anymore, just for the record. It
yeah,
took me
dude,
25 years to end the friendship, but
yeah. But that was the first straw. No,
yeah, well, it was definitely a sign of things to come. Let's leave it at
got
that.
it.
That level of understanding about relationships and people
Yeah. Mm.
definitely was a sign of what was coming down the pipe later. But that's just, and again, I think Arwen nailed it with the simple just, it's all about communication. If
Yeah.
you want to do something, say so. Say, hey, I want to try role playing this. Is anybody uncomfortable with that? If they go, they say, you know what, then I won't. I don't have
I
to.
I was at a table one time where the an individual was like, "We're the good guys." Said and done. I don't want to. There's no evil. Nobody's chaotic neutral. We're the good guys, and it was kind of like his thing. I do not want to be. I don't want gray area. We are the heroes, and I want to be heroes. And so it was just kind of a, whew, okay, well, and that was indeed the point where any one of us could have said, okay, maybe this isn't the table for you. Or hey, that's yucking my yum by kicking down on me because I want to be the Weasley rogue, type thing. So
Bad to the bone.
so
Arwen, there's a lot to unpack there, and we will talk on Discord about that. But she brings the point of having a group that is 3 cis guys and 3 cis girls and ended up with an all male party. I want to go down that road with you. There's a part of me that's like, let's lay down on the couch and start talking, shall we? But we are like bumping up on the hour and a half mark. We're a little over an hour and 10 into it. And I would like to start to kind of wind down the podcast, talk about some projects we're excited about in the coming days and weeks, and of course direct everybody that is so interested over to the Discord for more conversations because we got a great chat going today. You have added a lot of nice layers to it. I think it would be a lot of fun to talk about that. We'll give Battlefly Nate the last point for us to respond to, and then we're going to wrap up, which is I know people who refuse to let people role play outside their gender as a character because they've played with one person who just got really weird about it. Not as a discovering identity thing, but as a weird projecting and horny thing. And dude, I feel that, and I respect that, and I understand any DM who says, I've seen that go pear-shaped, I do not want to touch it at my table. I'm saddened by it, but I understand and respect it. That it can be once something's been ruined for you, it can be very hard to say, I trust this very negative experience won't happen again. And I've seen, I'm going to say one more thing and I'll let Graybeard chime in on it, but I have seen some people take a gender bent character into incredibly offensive stereotype territory and made everyone leave the table feeling like they needed a shower.
Yeah. Yeah, it can definitely be if someone is someone is crossing lines that you just don't want at your table, that's a communication thing. Say something about it and go, okay, you need to pull that back. You need to pull that back, or you need to switch characters or whatever. I want you to express yourself, but everyone here, we're all players at this game, and we all need to be comfortable.
Remember, the DM is a player.
Mm-hmm.
They have as much right to have fun at the table as everybody else does. Sometimes that means dropping an orange couch on you and watching you roll your con save. Because that crap's fun. So, as we wind down, and oh God, amen, sweet. What's coming up that you're excited about? What's coming up in the next 2 weeks that you are ecstatic to get into?
So we should be back at Monster Noir on Thursday, 8:30 EST over on Indoor Adventures. You know, we've been playing this for multiple years. We're calling this season 3 because this is the finale. We're going to put the game aside. We've got players who've got other commitments and whatnot, so that's going to be there. Because it's season 3. You can jump in and still have a good time, or you can go back and watch the backlog of such over on YouTube, Indoor Adventure. So that, and then of course my Saturday night game is not streamed, but you know I love those guys, and they just now are finding the dangers of the sandbox they're in, and so it's just getting like, whoo, you know, we spent like a session and a half, 2 sessions just getting to know the sandbox, and now it's getting dangerous. So I'm looking forward to that. Sunday, I'm 10:30 or 10-ish EST. I'll be on my channel, Gray Bear Tavern, on Twitch with some Wilder Myth. It's going to be a good time to jump in because we lost everything. So we're going to start on a certain chapter, and you know we try to make new people characters in the game, so you can have you can be there and see what horrors I inflict upon your poor persona. And then might be this Sunday I have Call of Cthulhu with the English crew. And then I am up on Dragon Heist on Sunday night, which I'll let you announce and whatnot. But I've got some new trick arrows to show, which I'm not going to show now. We're saving them as spoilers. So
nice.
Catch us then.
That sounds like fun. And you know, I've been searching. This weekend I might give up my XCOM to start a different. There's a couple of tactical RPGs that have come out in the last year, and I'm kind of geeked about trying a couple of them. But God, I love my XCOM, especially from a stream point of view, for the same reason. Like, oh, you're in chat, I'm naming this operative after you. Let's see if they live. And I kicked up the difficulty so people don't live as often. And so it's actually crazy fun. But yeah, so Dragon Heist has got 2 sessions left. We have 1 session where they're going to go get a particular poem that has been more or less lost to time, but it was known for the fact that it made Lady Bandrath weep and laugh simultaneously. And so this is the key to the vault. They have to get it. And then once they have it, the last session will be after the vault door opens, and they have an opportunity to get, to see what happens. That's our finale, where all of the players in the 7-person cast are invited to come back for that game, because it's going to be one massive, big, like, okay, this is the payoff. And then right on the heels of it,
here's my bow.
You have, yes. Yes. And right on the heels of it, we're going to be then diving straight into Ravenloft 1921, which is coming along remarkably well. The vibe is Brandon Fraser's Mummy crossed with I didn't see it coming. Because so far, almost everyone is making a character that you're like, wait, that's a monk? hold on. That one's the barbarian? And I'm kind of geeked for it, because at first I'm like, oh man, everyone's like making these off-type characters. But with a party that's all off-type,
right,
it's just going to give Strahd that many more headaches.
Right. Right.
which will be some of the fun. And we're aiming to hit that comedic vibe of the Mummy, where it's like, it's action, it's scary. There were moments where you're like, holy crap, they might actually kill Evie. Like maybe that's part of the story arc, is Evie ends up like deadish or something.
Right.
But they're still wisecracking all the way. So that's I'm excited about. I'm excited about my Saturday morning games. I mentioned before, Saturday mornings are going to have a new pirate inspired D&D game with amazing people on it. I'm really geeked to get them to the table. And then I'm
When's that starting?
we don't know. We might actually have a session -1 on this Saturday.
Oh, okay.
I don't know. I know Pond and Les are both like chomping at the bit to get it up and running. We're just gonna have to see how things pan out.
Nice.
As long as I don't have to do too much prep, I'm happy to run it. It should be a lot of fun. And then I'm just really, really geek about the fact that my daughter and I have locked in our Monday nights together. So you can come back here, this channel, on Monday nights. So pretty much 7 p.m. Sundays, Mondays, and Wednesdays, and 8 a.m. Saturdays and Sundays. There's stuff here. And our alternating Tuesdays, we meet here at 5 o'clock for some happy hour to catch up with each other, empty a glass, and talk about something related to the dungeons or the dragons, and on occasion both. Mine is coffee before questions. It has a very angry looking raccoon.
Mine is awesome dads. Just explore dungeons and slay dragons.
Nice.
So,
all right. On that note, we're going to wrap up. Graybeard, do you have a parting thought for our studio audience? Podcast audience. For the podcast audience.
Again, I usually am like, don't be afraid to, in this case, don't be afraid to put it out there, or ask your DM to put out the romance thing and see if anybody bites. It never hurts to bring it up. And if somewhere along the line you think, oh, hey, maybe we could, now as you guys get the groove, definitely don't be afraid to say, hey, how about we now? Can we become a couple or something? Or, communicate, ask, try it. You'll love it. You'll love it.
And until the next time we all meet, folks, wherever you are, whatever you're doing, stay safe. For those hanging out here on the Twitch, we want to send some love somewhere to enjoy our time together. And what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to send you to someone I just met. Sharvana is a content creator that I raided into following. I think it was Kraken Inferno. We raided into her, and she was a lot of fun. She's a hoot and a half. She's currently playing Nier Replicant, so we're going to head over there. Please send our love, as is unfortunately often the case. I usually cannot follow the raids because I'm busy talking with the people I'm streaming with. So I'm going to have to. Shadow, thank you for coming by. It was great having you hanging out today. So please send my love when you arrive. And remember, tip your waitstaff well. Even if you're serving yourself, you deserve to be treated well as well. We're all deserving of love. And on that note, folks, thank you for coming by. Till next time, stay safe.